Hi everyone. There seemed to be quite a bit of interest in the blog last week. I don't know if it was uh, being summer and everyone interested in using sandals with AFOs. But looking at the stats, it looked like probably the biggest interest out there was in my AT Dad's rules for an AT life, and in particular, rule number one. Every high-tech AT solution needs at least one low or no-tech alternative. So I thought I'd take this week and focus on how one example in the AT house where we follow that rule, and in particular, let's look at Jay's highest tech AT, uh, which is Jay's AAC device, and I will show we have a number of low and no tech alternatives, but I'll share one of those with you now. So let's go ahead and take a look at Jay's AAC device right now. Alright, so this here is the Tobii C12 with CI module. This is the AAC device that Jay uses. I've taken off sort of the personalized color stripes on the side, so it's not necessarily as plain as this. And this happens to be one of the ready-made page sets that Tobii includes with the device. So this isn't necessarily Jay's page set, but it gives you an idea of what a page set may look like. So a quick little bit of background on Jay. So Jay is a smart, funny, social little kid that happens to have cerebral palsy, and more specifically happens to have an athetoid cerebral palsy, which means a lot of variable tone and involuntary movements. But it's actually a mix. There is a bit of spastic cerebral palsy that Jay happens to have as well. So what that means from a communication standpoint is that the oral motor control and the vocal muscle control used to speak in a traditional sense can be challenging for Jay. So Jay can make sounds, but it's not speech the way, it's not speech the way many people would understand it. Jay's fine and gross motor make sort of a traditional American Sign Language not a appropriate option, nor typing or mousing or using a touchscreen computer or pointing to COM boards. So that leads us to the Eye Gaze system, which is what the Tobii C12 with CI module is. So just a brief intro into the Tobii. The C12, which is this upper piece up here, that's basically for all intents and purposes, it's a Windows laptop that has that touchscreen capable Windows laptop, and so as a care provider, we can interact with the Tobii by touching the screen, So I can see Do showed up there. And this bottom piece here is the CI module. You can see the flashing lights there. If you were here in person, you wouldn't see those because those are actually infrared strobe lights. And there happen to be two cameras next to those. And to sort of be a good hand-wavy explanation, those infrared strobe lights bathe the user's face in infrared light. The cameras look for the reflection of that infrared light off of the back of the retinas, and then the computer does a whole bunch of Euclidean geometry and other math to determine where the user is looking on the screen, and now you can use your eyes in a similar way that a mouse can be used. As you can see, it's the content of the page set isn't the important thing, but Jay would interact with this by looking at a particular button and staring at it for a preset and configurable dwell time. That would then select it and select that button and activate that button, and depending on how the button is programmed, it would say something or go to a different page set or whatever. So this is a very high-tech AT solution, and as a very high-tech AT solution, sometimes it doesn't, things happen. The CI module gets sort of disconnected and is no longer watching Jay's eyes. The speaker, for some reason, doesn't boot up. Speaker drivers don't boot up or something, or the touch screen is non-responsive, or it is a Windows machine, so maybe there's a bit of the blue screen of death, or mostly, and this is really the biggest reasons why we have problems using Tobii is can't use it outside very well. I mean, the eye gaze system works, but the glare on the screen makes it so Jay can't see the choices on the screen. So the system will watch your eyes, but Jay can't see what the choices are, and so can't really use it effectively. Can't use it when it's raining. It's a computer. Can't use it in the bathtub. This mounts very well to Jay's wheelchair, but as far as when Jay is out of the wheelchair, mounting can be a little bit trickier, and we don't have a great solution on that. So in times when the high-tech AT is not possible, we need to go with an alternative, and we have a couple of low and no tech options. Let me share with you one of our no tech options. Okay, so a no tech eye gaze communication strategy for when Jay's Tobii is inappropriate for whatever reason or unavailable. We have a couple of them, but the easiest one to sort of describe to start with is a choice-based communication system where we're providing choices and letting Jay choose. For example, yes/no questions. And it's essentially using my two hands as the choice identifiers, and then letting Jay choose with eyes which choice. So for example, Jay, I'm going to ask you if you're done. This is yes, this is no. Jay, are you done? Yes, no. Alright, and then Jay will look at the choice that Jay wants, and that's how I'll know. Now there's a few things about using this technique that I want to point out. First of all, you'll notice that the way I presented the question, I first told Jay with the question, I would tell Jay the question I'm about to ask, and then I introduce the options. This is yes, this is no. And when I introduce the options, I'm only introducing one at a time. So I'm not going, this is yes, this is no, because that can still get a little confusing as to which one is yes and no. So it's this is yes, this is no. I'm introducing choices in the visual midline, right? Because we believe Jay may have, there's a possibility that there are some holes in Jay's visual field, and we don't know where they are. We're fairly confident that in the visual midline there isn't. So I can introduce choices where I know Jay can see them. If I'm introducing them out in a visual field, a hole in the visual field, to be like, this is yes, this is no. And it can be difficult to see those. I then ask the question, give the answers again, yes, no, put them together visually, a visual midline, and then bring them out. That's for the potential holes in the visual field again, because even if I were to do, if I were to do something like, this is yes, this is no, are you done, yes, no, and that should be out of camera range, you know where the yes and no went. So you'd be able to, even though you can't see them at that point, you know where they went, you know where you to move your eyes to go and find the yes, for example, or the no. So that's just a real quick way of doing yes, no. Jay does have yes, no in a natural language that Jay's invented, but this is a way if I sometimes need a little bit more clarity. And if I ask a lot of yes, no questions, I'll just say, this is yes, this is no, and then just ask a bunch of questions without reintroducing the choices. And sometimes I forget on yes, no, because we use the same choices all the time. But you can do more than yes, no. So if I want to ask Jay if today's a good day to go to the park or the zoo, Jay, would you like to go to the park, or would you like to go to the zoo? Okay, the park or the zoo. That gives me choices. If we're at the zoo and I want to know if Jay wants to go, what animal does Jay want to start off with? There are 4 that we typically start with. So that's more than 2 choices, right? But I can do, Jay, would you like to go and see the orangutans, the elephants, the bears, or the gorillas? Okay, orangutans, elephants, bears, gorillas. Which one? And then I can try to figure out what finger Jay is looking at to distinguish between, let's say, orangutans and elephants, for example. Or what I typically do is go, I see you're looking here. That is orangutans or elephants. So Jay, would you like to go see the orangutans or the elephants? And sort of drill down with levels. You can actually communicate quite a bit with this, with just choices. It does fall short on some of the spontaneous exclamations that kids like to say, like gross and oh, that's funny or something. But it does work as a pretty reliable communication technique when Toby's not available for whatever reason, and it is a no-tech solution that I always have with me and is always available. So that is one example of how we here at the AT House follow that AT Dad's rules for an AT life. That rule number 1, that whenever you have a high-tech AT solution, you need at least one low or no-tech alternative. I'd be very interested to hear if there's anybody else out there with low or no-tech communication alternatives who are AAC users, device users, just to kind of hear some of the other options that are out there. So anyhow, thanks again for listening, and good luck with your AT around your house, and keep on tinkering.